What if I told you that the burning in your chest, the sour taste in your throat, and the sleepless nights you've blamed on aging may actually be caused by one tiny valve that has forgotten how to close properly? Today, I'm going to show you why that stomach valve stays open, what's secretly making your reflux worse every day, and the simple changes that can help you stop acid at the source, even if you're over 60 and have struggled for years. Hello, my friends. Dr. Clarence Martin here. If you've been reaching for antacids day after day, waking up with a burning throat, coughing after meals, or feeling that uncomfortable pressure in your chest, you're not alone. Millions of older adults suffer from acid reflux, but most people are treating the symptom while ignoring the real cause. The truth is, your body was designed with a natural valve between the stomach and esophagus that should keep acid where it belongs. When that valve weakens or remains open, stomach acid begins traveling upward, creating the discomfort you know as reflux. Today, I'll explain why this happens after 60, what common habits silently keep that valve open, and the practical steps that can help restore its function naturally. By the end of this discussion, you'll understand how to address reflux at its root instead of merely covering it up. Before we talk about foods, habits, or lifestyle changes, we need to understand the small but incredibly important part of your body that sits at the center of this entire issue. I'm talking about the lower esophageal sphincter, often called the LES. Now that may sound like a complicated medical term, but think of it as a simple one-way valve. It sits between your esophagus, the tube that carries food from your mouth, and your stomach. Its job is remarkably straightforward. It opens when you swallow food or drink, allowing everything to pass into your stomach, and then it closes tightly to keep stomach contents from coming back up. When this valve is functioning properly, you never think about it. You eat your meal, digestion begins, and everything stays where it belongs. But when that valve becomes weak, relaxed, or slow to close, stomach acid can travel upward into the esophagus. That's when trouble begins. You may feel a burning sensation in your chest. You may notice a sour or bitter taste in your mouth. Some people experience chronic coughing, frequent throat clearing, hoarseness, or even the sensation that something is stuck in their throat. What surprises many people is that reflux is not always about having too much stomach acid. In fact, the real problem is often that acid is ending up in the wrong place. Your stomach is designed to handle acid. It has a protective lining built specifically for that purpose. Your esophagus does not. Even a small amount of stomach acid entering the esophagus can cause irritation and discomfort because that tissue is far more sensitive. Imagine your front door at home. If the door closes securely, everything inside remains protected. But if the latch becomes loose and the door stays slightly open, outside elements can begin to enter. The LES works in much the same way. It is not the existence of stomach acid that creates the problem. The problem occurs when the protective barrier is no longer doing its job effectively. Many people assume reflux is simply a normal part of aging. They believe that once they reach their 60s or 70s, heartburn and indigestion are inevitable. But understanding the role of this valve changes the conversation entirely. It helps us see that reflux is not just random discomfort. There is a physical mechanism involved, and when we understand that mechanism, we can begin making choices that support it rather than work against it. This is important because every meal you eat, every habit you practice, and even the way you sit or sleep can influence how well this valve functions. The healthier and more responsive it remains, the less likely stomach acid is to move upward and create symptoms. That's why our focus today is not simply on suppressing symptoms. Our goal is to understand the root of the problem and support the body's natural design. Because once you understand the valve, you begin to understand the true source of reflux. Now that we understand the role of this important valve, the next question becomes obvious. Why does reflux seem to become more common as we get older? After all, many people can eat almost anything in their younger years without much trouble. Then, somewhere after the age of 60, foods that never caused problems before suddenly lead to burning, discomfort, and sleepless nights. This isn't your imagination, and it isn't simply bad luck. There are real changes taking place inside the body that can affect how well that stomach valve functions. One of the biggest changes involves muscle strength. Just as the muscles in your arms and legs naturally lose some strength with age, the muscles inside your body experience similar changes. The lower esophageal sphincter is made of muscle tissue, and over time it may not close with the same firmness and reliability it once had. Instead of forming a strong seal after food enters the stomach, it may remain slightly relaxed, creating opportunities for stomach acid to move upward. At the same time, digestion itself often slows down. In younger years, food typically moves through the stomach at a steady pace. As we age, however, stomach emptying can become slower. This means food remains in the stomach for longer periods of time. The longer food stays there, the more pressure can build inside the stomach. Think of it like filling a container beyond its comfortable capacity. The greater the pressure, the more likely it becomes that stomach contents will push against a weakened valve. Many older adults also experience subtle changes in stomach function that they may never notice directly. The digestive system becomes less efficient, and the coordination between different digestive organs may not be as smooth as it once was. Meals that were once easy to process can begin to create bloating, fullness, and discomfort. These sensations are more than just annoyances. They can contribute to the physical conditions that encourage reflux. Another factor that often develops with age is reduced physical activity. Retirement, joint discomfort, or health challenges may lead people to spend more time sitting. While rest is important, long periods of inactivity can slow digestion even further. Movement helps stimulate the digestive tract. When the body becomes less active, food may linger longer in the stomach, increasing the likelihood of reflux symptoms. Weight gain can also play a role. Even a modest increase in abdominal weight can place additional pressure on the stomach. This pressure doesn't just stay in one place, it pushes upward against the diaphragm and the stomach valve, making it more difficult for that valve to remain tightly closed. Many people don't realize that a few extra pounds around the midsection can significantly influence reflux symptoms. Perhaps the most important thing to remember is that these changes do not mean reflux is something you simply have to accept. Aging may create conditions that make reflux more likely, but understanding those changes gives you power. When you know why the valve weakens and what contributes to the problem, you can begin making adjustments that support your body's natural defenses instead of working against them. And that's exactly why the next thing we need to examine is what you're putting on your plate every single day. Now that we've talked about how aging can affect the stomach valve and digestion, let's turn our attention to something that may be influencing your reflux every single day without you even realizing it: the foods and drinks you consume. Many people assume that reflux is caused only by spicy foods, but the truth is far more surprising. Some of the most common foods in the average diet can quietly encourage that stomach valve to relax, making it easier for acid to travel upward into the esophagus. One of the biggest culprits is high-fat food. Fried meals, greasy takeout, rich sauces, and heavily processed snacks may taste satisfying in the moment, but they often slow the digestive process. When food stays in the stomach longer, pressure begins to build. At the same time, fatty foods can cause the lower esophageal sphincter to relax more than it should. That combination creates the perfect environment for reflux. The stomach remains full for longer periods, and the protective valve is less prepared to keep acid where it belongs. Then there is chocolate, a favorite treat for many people. Most don't suspect it could be contributing to their discomfort. Yet chocolate contains compounds that may encourage relaxation of the stomach valve. For someone already struggling with reflux, even a small nightly dessert can sometimes be enough to trigger symptoms later in the evening. Caffeine is another common issue. Coffee, certain teas, energy drinks, and some soft drinks can affect the function of the valve in sensitive individuals. This doesn't necessarily mean everyone must give up coffee forever. The goal is awareness. If you frequently experience heartburn after your morning cup, or notice symptoms becoming worse throughout the day, caffeine may be playing a larger role than you think. Carbonated beverages can also create problems. Those bubbles that make a drink feel refreshing introduce gas into the digestive system. As gas accumulates, pressure increases inside the stomach. That pressure has to go somewhere, and often it pushes upward against the stomach valve. Over time, frequent consumption of carbonated drinks may contribute to more episodes of reflux. Large meals deserve special attention as well. Even healthy foods can become problematic when eaten in excessive amounts. Many people grew up finishing everything on their plate, but an overfilled stomach places significant strain on digestion. The more crowded the stomach becomes, the harder the valve must work to keep contents from moving upward. This is why some people experience symptoms after holiday meals or large family dinners, even when the food itself isn't particularly unhealthy. Late-night eating is another habit worth considering. When you lie down shortly after a meal, gravity is no longer helping keep stomach contents in place. A full stomach combined with a reclining position can make reflux much more likely. This is especially common among older adults who enjoy a late snack before bed and then wonder why they wake up with a burning throat or sour taste in their mouth. The encouraging news is that you don't need a perfect diet to make meaningful progress. Often, small adjustments can produce noticeable improvements. The key is identifying which foods and habits may be quietly keeping that stomach valve open and giving your digestive system the support it needs. Because sometimes the problem isn't just what's on your plate, it's the pressure being placed on your stomach from outside as well. As important as food choices are, there is another factor that many people overlook completely. You can eat all the right foods, avoid common triggers, and still struggle with reflux if too much pressure is being placed on your stomach. This hidden pressure is one of the most underestimated contributors to acid reflux, especially after the age of 60. Think about your stomach for a moment. It sits in a limited space within your abdomen, surrounded by other organs, muscles, and structures. When extra pressure builds around that area, it doesn't simply disappear. It pushes against the stomach, and eventually that pressure reaches the lower esophageal sphincter, the valve we've been discussing throughout this talk. The more force pressing upward, the harder that valve has to work to stay closed. One of the most common sources of this pressure is excess weight around the midsection. Even a modest increase in abdominal fat can affect the digestive system. Unlike weight carried in other parts of the body, abdominal weight sits close to the stomach and continuously presses inward. Day after day, meal after meal, that pressure can make it easier for stomach contents to move upward into the esophagus. Many people assume they would need to lose a significant amount of weight before seeing any improvement. But that's not always true. Research and clinical experience have repeatedly shown that even small reductions in abdominal weight can lessen reflux symptoms for many individuals. Sometimes the goal isn't perfection. It's simply reducing enough pressure to allow the body's natural defenses to work more effectively. Posture is another factor that rarely gets the attention it deserves. As we age, many of us spend more time sitting. Whether it's watching television, reading, using a computer, or simply resting, long hours in a slouched position can compress the abdominal area. When you slump forward, you essentially squeeze the space where your stomach sits. Over time, this may increase pressure and contribute to reflux episodes. I've spoken with countless people who noticed improvements simply by becoming more mindful of how they sit after meals. Remaining upright allows gravity to assist digestion. Slouching, bending forward, or reclining too soon can encourage stomach contents to move in the wrong direction. Tight clothing can create a similar effect. Belts that are pulled too tight, restrictive waistbands, shapewear, or snug clothing around the abdomen may seem harmless, but they can place unnecessary pressure on the stomach. If you've ever felt relief after loosening your belt following a large meal, you've already experienced the impact of abdominal pressure firsthand. Even certain daily activities can contribute. Repeated bending over immediately after eating, lifting heavy objects, or engaging in strenuous activity with a full stomach may temporarily increase pressure inside the abdomen. For someone whose stomach valve is already weakened, these situations can trigger symptoms surprisingly quickly. The encouraging part is that many of these factors are within your control. You don't need expensive treatments to begin reducing unnecessary pressure. Small adjustments in posture, clothing choices, daily movement, and weight management can collectively make a meaningful difference over time. Because once you reduce the forces pushing against that valve, the next step is learning the simple daily habits that help it stay closed and functioning the way nature intended. Now that we've talked about the valve itself, the effects of aging, food triggers, and the hidden pressure on the stomach, let's bring this together with something practical: the daily habits that can help your stomach valve stay closed and reduce reflux naturally. These are not extreme changes, and they don't require expensive supplements or complicated routines. In many cases, it's the small, consistent habits that make the biggest difference. One of the most powerful habits is simply eating more slowly. When you rush through a meal, you tend to swallow more air, take larger bites, and overeat before your body has time to signal fullness. This can increase bloating and stomach pressure. Slowing down gives your digestive system a chance to work the way it was designed to work. Chew thoroughly, put your fork down between bites, and allow your meal to last a little longer. Your stomach and your esophagus will thank you for it. Portion size matters just as much as food choice. Many people eat 2 or 3 very large meals a day, especially at dinner. But a smaller, more balanced meal places far less strain on the stomach valve than a heavy plate piled high with food. Instead of eating until you feel stuffed, aim to stop when you feel comfortably satisfied. That one adjustment alone can reduce the upward pressure that triggers reflux. Timing is another key habit. Try to avoid lying down for at least 2 to 3 hours after eating. Gravity is one of your body's best allies against reflux. When you're upright, it helps keep stomach contents where they belong. But when you lie flat too soon after a meal, acid can move upward much more easily. This is why late-night dinners and bedtime snacks are such common triggers for nighttime reflux. Hydration also plays a role, but balance is important. Drinking small amounts of water throughout the day supports digestion, but drinking large volumes during meals can sometimes leave the stomach feeling overly full. Instead of gulping down several glasses with dinner, try sipping water steadily throughout the day and drinking moderately during meals. Another simple habit is taking a gentle walk after eating. You don't need intense exercise. In fact, strenuous activity right after a meal can sometimes worsen reflux. But a calm 10 to 15-minute walk can help stimulate digestion and encourage food to move through the stomach more efficiently. It also helps reduce that heavy, bloated feeling many people experience after meals. Pay attention to your eating environment as well. Stress and tension can affect digestion more than most people realize. Eating while anxious, distracted, or rushing out the door may contribute to digestive discomfort. Whenever possible, sit down, relax, and treat meals as a time for nourishment, rather than a task to get through quickly. And finally, consistency matters more than perfection. You don't need to follow every habit perfectly every day. But when these practices become part of your normal routine, they work together to reduce pressure on the stomach, support digestion, and help that valve do its job more effectively. Because once these habits are in place, we can begin focusing on the natural strategies that address reflux at its root and support long-term relief. As we come to the final part of our discussion, I want to focus on something that gives many people hope. By now, you've learned that reflux is often not just a problem of excess acid. It's a problem of function. It's about how well the stomach valve works, how efficiently the digestive system moves food, and how much pressure is being placed on the stomach throughout the day. When you begin addressing those underlying factors, you're no longer just chasing symptoms. you are supporting the body's natural ability to protect itself. One of the most effective natural strategies is improving overall digestive efficiency. Digestion doesn't begin in the stomach, it begins in the mouth. Every time you chew thoroughly, you make the stomach's job easier. Food that is broken down properly requires less effort to process and is less likely to linger in the stomach for extended periods. This may sound simple, but it is one of the most overlooked steps in digestive health. Daily movement is another powerful tool. As we age, it becomes even more important to keep the digestive system active. You don't need intense workouts or exhausting exercise routines. A consistent habit of walking, stretching, or engaging in light physical activity can encourage healthy digestion and help food move through the digestive tract more efficiently. The less time food spends sitting heavily in the stomach, the less opportunity there is for pressure to build and push acid upward. Sleep position can also make a remarkable difference. Many people suffer most from reflux during the night because they spend hours lying flat. When gravity is removed from the equation, stomach contents can move upward more easily. Elevating the head of the bed slightly or sleeping in a position that helps keep acid lower in the stomach may reduce nighttime symptoms. Small adjustments during sleep often provide relief that medications alone fail to achieve. Managing stress is another important piece of the puzzle. Stress does not directly cause reflux, but it can influence digestion in ways that make symptoms worse. When the body is constantly in a state of tension, digestion may become less efficient. Meals may sit longer in the stomach, bloating may increase, and discomfort can become more noticeable. Taking time to relax, breathe deeply, and create moments of calm throughout the day supports not only your mind, but also your digestive health. It is also important to think long-term. Many people search for a quick fix, a single food, supplement, or remedy that will make reflux disappear overnight. Unfortunately, lasting relief rarely works that way. The digestive system responds best to consistent habits practiced over time. Every healthy meal choice, every walk after dinner, every effort to avoid overeating, and every night spent sleeping in a more supportive position contributes to a healthier environment for that stomach valve. The good news is that your body is often more adaptable than you think. Even after 60, positive changes can lead to meaningful improvements. The goal isn't perfection, the goal is progress. Small changes repeated consistently can gradually reduce symptoms, improve comfort, and help restore confidence around eating and daily life. And when you begin supporting the cause instead of simply fighting the symptoms, that's when real healing can begin. So if you take anything from this discussion, let it be this. Reflux is not just something you have to live with or simply mask with medication. It is often a signal that your stomach valve, your digestion, and your daily habits are no longer working in harmony. When you understand the root causes, you regain control. You stop chasing temporary relief and start building lasting comfort from the inside out. And remember, even small changes, done consistently, can begin to quiet the burn, calm the pressure, and give your body the chance to heal the way it was designed to.